I'm Brian Cuban, and you are watching the Revolution Rant. The revolution begins today. I'm Brian Cuban, and it's time to rant. Hey everybody, welcome to the Revolution Rant. We have a great guest today to talk about a controversial subject. Our guest is Dr. Andre Oboler, PhD. Dr. Oboler is one of the foremost experts in the area of social media hate speech, particularly in the areas of anti-Semitic hate speech and even more particularly Holocaust denial. Dr. Oboler is the author of a very well-read and well-respected report on the subject, Anti-Semitism 2.0. And I've gotten to know Dr. Oboler through my involvement with the Holocaust denial groups on Facebook. I have looked at his material and used some of his material, as well as the JIDF, who were Dr. Oboler and the JIDF were the ones who alerted me to the issue of Holocaust denial groups on Facebook. And then I went and did my own thing, and hopefully between all of us, we can make some difference at Facebook. Dr. Oboler, I'm going to maximize your screen, and it is great to have you here. So as I was telling everyone listening in, you are considered one of the foremost experts in the world on the issue of anti-Semitic hate speech. Why don't you give us a little bit of your background?
Okay, I became involved in this issue when I was in the UK. I did my undergraduate degree in Australia and then went across to the UK for my PhD. And I got involved in student politics, various other issues there. And through that, I found that there was a significant amount of misinformation on campus which came off the internet. And people whose views I, respected greatly were getting this nonsense and repeating it, using it to pass or try and pass motions which would have made anti-Semitic policy. And when I traced the problem back, I found it was an internet issue and thought we should do something about it. So I started up my website, Zionism on the Web, which at that stage was mostly about explaining what Zionism is, because the concept had been misconstrued on campus quite badly. From there, we started looking at other instances of online hate, particularly online anti-Semitism, but we've also looked at a number of other things. And after that, I got involved in research in the area. I went across to Israel. I spent a year doing a postdoctorate degree there, a postdoctorate year, and that was in political science, jumping out of computer science. And that was when I started doing some of the papers working in this area.
So, Doctor, I've read your report, Anti-Semitism 2.0. When I got into all this stuff with Facebook and the Holocaust denial groups, that is some of the research I relied on in educating myself about what was going on, because I was frankly, I understood Holocaust denial, and but it wasn't an educational issue. It was more of a personal issue to me, having relatives on my mother's side who perished. But what prompted you to write the Anti-Semitism 2.0?
Anti-Semitism 2.0 was looking specifically at social media. I found there was a lot of research looking at websites and to some extent looking at forums, but nobody was really dealing with the new media, the new sort of the Facebook issues, the YouTube issues, MySpace issues, Wikipedia, all these sort of interactive environments had sort of fallen by the wayside. The people who were doing reports were doing the same sort of reports that they'd been doing for 3 or 4 years, and the internet had moved on.
What's kind of interesting, it's a funny story how I found out about your report back when I was talking to a guy from the JIDF way back when, and I said, and I'm getting interested in all this and the Holocaust now, and I said, hey, I'm going to write something. I'm going to call it Anti-Semitism 2.0. And he's like, he goes, you can't, that's taken. And then I went and looked at your report. So
Brian,
you did a much better job than I ever could have with my limited knowledge, but it was kind of funny. I thought I had this great title, and you had picked up on it a long time ago.
Yeah, Brian, you're more than welcome to use it. Just put the credit back to the original report.
Yeah, no, I know, and your report was much more comprehensive than I could have ever. I was just looking. Mine would have been much more shallow. Anything I'd done. So yours is the standard, Doctor. And then fast forward to May. As you know, Obama had his speech at the Holocaust Memorial. I wrote that article that was picked, Obama at odds with Facebook on Holocaust denial, picked up by Chris Matuzak of CNET, and then all hell broke loose from my standpoint. CNN, blah, 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 blah. But you guys were involved, you guys and the JIDF were involved long before this. So where are we now? I mean, what's going on? They took down some groups. This stuff is all up. The stuff, though, is still up there. Not just hate speech, but, I know you view it differently, but, we have groups, fuck Israel, fuck Islam. There's just a lot of hate on Facebook, and where are we on that?
Okay, Brian, the first thing I want to say is that the background you just related, you mentioned the Anti-Semitism 2.0 report. The new report, which came out last week, is Facebook Holocaust Denial and Anti-Semitism 2.0. And that report goes through all the background you've just discussed. And it's also got copies of those canned letters and also various statements made by various Facebook employees at different points. So I don't disagree with anything you just said. If people want to look at it in more detail, it's in the report. The report's online. Where we are right now is that Facebook, well, as you said, it's quite unbelievable that this content's there. My view when I suggested it to you originally was, hey, maybe they haven't realized that this is there. Brian will go off, Brian will write an article about it, Facebook will realize there's a problem, and they'll fix it. And I think we're both quite shocked when the response came back eventually, sort of months and months later, where they've said, actually, we have a policy now that we're allowing Holocaust denial. We don't believe Holocaust denial is hate speech. And that's not in their terms of service. That's a statement that's been made and repeated a number of times by Facebook employees and senior management. And as far as I'm aware, this is the only specific exception they've made where it's come out in the press, in statements saying, we don't believe that this thing that everybody in the world agrees is hate speech, according to our definition as Facebook, that's not hate speech. We disagree. I'm not aware of any other examples. So at the moment, Facebook basically, the position that was put out by the ADL and by others is, and by myself in earlier work, Facebook needs to have a look again at what Holocaust denial is, why it's considered hate speech by so many experts, all the experts in fact, as well as by the international community, everyone from the UN, the EU, different countries. The issue in the US is it's not that Holocaust denial is not regarded as hate speech, it's that certain forms of hate speech in the US are regarded as okay. Now, that's a problem for the US to deal with. But if Facebook wants to take a literal line on the legal issues, then why do they say that they ban hate speech? Okay, they should say we ban illegal content. In fact, they don't even need to say that because the law applies by default. Facebook doesn't have to say, hey, illegal things are illegal. It's a given. So hopefully Facebook, rather than removing this, this part of their terms of service saying, hate speech is not allowed on our service, hopefully Facebook decides to live up to that terms of service and actually start removing hate speech, including Holocaust denial, once they have a little bit more of a think about why Holocaust denial is hate speech. And again, that's what I've discussed in the new report.